Dear friends, today is the first Sunday of Lent, and in the Gospel, as Jesus prepares to begin his public ministry, we find him in the desert. We have a short version in today's reading, but in all of the passages of the Gospels, Jesus is tempted by the devil in three ways. First of all, he is tempted when he is hungry after 40 days of prayer. And the devil tells him to change the stone into bread so that he can eat. The second temptation, he is brought up on a mountaintop and he is shown all the kingdoms of the world. And the devil tells him that he can have power over all of these kingdoms if he will worship him. And finally, the last temptation is for Jesus to throw himself off of the parapet of the temple. And there he will believe that the angels of God will come and minister to him. But Jesus responds to the devil and says that these three temptations are not where I want to place my heart. We all have a temptation as to where we're going to find the meaning of life. Sin, and according to the Old Testament, is when we miss the target of life, the mark of life. And sometimes, rather than finding the target or mark of life in God's love, we find it in power, or we search for it in pleasure, or we hope that money will be able to satisfy our hearts. The constitutions of the Congregation of Holy Cross remind all of the Holy Cross religious that the earth is manifest with many good gifts from God's hand. But sometimes we tend to worship the gifts and then we ignore the giver of the gifts. And so we become fascinated and we worship power, we worship pleasure, we worship wealth. And it is these three temptations that Jesus faces in the desert, and he overcomes them. With the hunger of our bodies, with the pleasures of life, he tells us that we are more than flesh, more than creatures of the earth. We have a spirit, and that spirit also is hungry and thirsty for God's love. We are told, too, that there is greater power in the world than just a military power or a political power. There is the power of service. Jesus got down on bended knee and served others rather than being served. And here it is that we can overcome the great temptation to make ourselves the center of the universe so that we can see our brothers and sisters as even greater than ourselves. And finally, Jesus is brought to the top of the temple and told to throw himself off and let the angels of God take care of him. But Jesus tells us that true religion, true faith, true love is not a matter of security. In fact, it is a matter of a great risk, because we have to empty ourselves and find that the love of God will fill us completely and totally. And it is that love which will give us the meaning and purpose of our existence. In that love, we will find the joy that the world will never take away from us. So every one of us faces these temptations to place our faith in power or pleasure or wealth or a combination of them, and we sometimes forget the giver of these beautiful gifts, but to hold them in perspective, in the whole perspective of God's love. So may we enter this journey of Lent on this first Sunday by facing our own temptations to live outside of God's love and to let the love of God permeate everything about us and everything that is in our world. And then we will enter into the fullness of life and into the mystery of Jesus' own resurrection on Easter Sunday.